Let's say that Mr. Pike was out in public and was approached by another man who was a member of the Squashers religion. That religion holds that each member has to kill one man each day, and that no man has the right to interfere with their religious beliefs. He approaches Mr. Pike with a gun in his hand and says, "My religion teaches that I have to kill one man each day, and I have selected you as today's victim." Mr. Pike would say, "Of course, it is also a tenet of my religion that no man has the right to interfere with the religious beliefs of another. And, since there are not moral absolutes like thou shalt not murder, I cannot interfere with your right to kill me, so please proceed with your religion mandates." It does not take a genius to know that Mr. Pike would not say that. He would do all within his power to subdue the squasher. He would not believe what his religion teaches. He would act on a real belief that moral absolute, thou shalt not murder, is correct, and no man has the right to take his life. He would correctly make a determination that he has a God-given right to self-defense, because he would know that this was a moral absolute, an attempt to subdue this religious fanatic. Hypocrisy. Thou name is Pike. But Mr. Pike is not alone with this line of thinking. Others have made similar outlandish statements. John Dewey, the American educator and so-called father of progressive education, was one of those who believed in situation ethics. He held to similar morality. He has been quoted as saying, quote, "There is no God and there is no soul, hence there are no needs for the props of traditional religion. With dogma and creed excluded, the immutable truth is also dead and buried." There is no room for fixed natural law or permanent absolutes. It is not known whether Mr. Dewey was a Mason, but he certainly wrote like one. He certainly believed the same situation ethics that Mr. Pike believed in. But, just as Mr. Pike's statement that the fact that what was untrue today may become true tomorrow, the words of Mr. Dewey also contain a similar absolute absurdity. Notice that Mr. Dewey wrote that a immutable truth is also dead and buried. A dictionary defined the word immutable as never changing or varying. Mr. Dewey said those truths which are immutable can be changed. He said that an immutable truth can be killed, meaning that it could be changed from a living condition to a dead condition. Yet, by definition, something that is immutable cannot change. One does not have to be a genius to understand that something that is unchangeable is, by definition, unchangeable. But something that is unchangeable cannot change. Yet Mr. Dewey says that something that is unchangeable can change. Another historic figure who said something similar in those statements by Pike and Dewey was Nikolai Lenin, the father of Russian communism, the man who murdered as many as 40 million Russians to provide that nation with economic and political philosophy known as communism. He is quoted as saying, "Communism abolishes eternal truths. It abolishes all religion and morality." And just like Dewey and Pike, Mr. Lenin believed in the unbelievable. He wrote that an eternal truth could be abolished. The word eternal is defined as without beginning or end, forever the same, always true or valid. That which is eternal cannot change. It is always true. Yet Lenin, the communist, said that communism abolishes eternal truths. Once again, it does not take a genius to understand this statement was a monstrous absurdity, because that which is eternal cannot, by definition, change. But Pike, Lenin, and Dewey all thought that those things cannot change. Things that cannot change can change. These are the thoughts of men who are not capable of clear thought, men out of touch with reality. Anyone out of touch with reality is called insane. It doesn't take a genius to understand that simple absolute. Pike confirmed that he also did not believe in the fact that moral absolutes existed. He wrote on page 833 of Morals and Dogma, quote, "It is not true to say that one man, however little, must not be sacrificed to another, however great, to a majority or to all men. That is not only a fallacy, but a dangerous one. Often, one man and many men must be sacrificed, in the ordinary sense of the term, to the interest of the many." Unquote. And then Mr. Pike repeats the thought on page 634, so that no one who can question what he meant. He wrote, quote, "The interest and even the life of one man must often be sacrificed to the interest and the welfare on his country." The biblical teaching is that each man has the right to life, and the sacrificing of one man's life is called murder. That would include a sacrificing of the life of one man for the benefit of another. Here Mr. Pike stated that often one man must be sacrificed to benefit the many. This is called murder by the God of the Bible, who specifically forbade man from committing this act. "Thou shalt not murder." And this teaching is a moral absolute, one that God wanted man to obey at all times. And Mr. Pike has said that, quote, "What is untrue today may become true in another generation," unquote. The opposite of that position, also true by Mr. Pike's statement, is that what is true today may become untrue in another generation, unquote. So yesterday's absolutes do not have to be tomorrow's absolutes, because there are no such things. This statement by Pike is complementary to the one in which expresses the morality of the Masons, called situation ethics, and the belief that there is no moral absolutes. And to show you that he understood his book was to teach the morality of the Masonic Lodge, he entitled his book, Morals and Dogma. Let there be no doubt about it. The Masons do not believe in moral absolutes. They teach that each man is free to find his own morality, and teaching is called situation ethics. Since there are no moral absolutes in the Masonic Lodge, each man is to decide for himself what is moral and immoral. And Mr. Pike is telling the Mason that he is to determine those things for himself. He wrote on page 169, "The true use of knowledge is to distinguish good from evil." The Mason seeks knowledge so he can decide for himself what is right and wrong. The Bible teaches that man is not to decide for himself what is good and what is evil. The ability to know for himself is called the, quote, "fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil" in the Garden of Eden, and man was instructed by God not to eat of this knowledge. Man was to learn, quote, "good and evil" from the moral absolutes taught to him by God. But, as was just explained, the Mason is taught that there are no moral absolutes. They are being taught that each man is to make his own decisions as to what is right and wrong. And that is the reason that Masons used to ask him to read the Masonic book entitled Morals and Dogma. It was so that he could learn the morals of the Masonic Lodge. And that's the last page of the first booklet. There's still, as you can see, a little ways to go. I'll continue later.